Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log. Subdates 220901.5. The unidentified shape appears to resemble another dainty target. Dorkita has informed me we can in fact lock Amber Lynn Reed away just before the approaching one arrives. So now all we have to do is decide whether to attack the other one, engage in negotiations, or sod off. Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with something exquisitely dumb, courtesy of the New York Post. I'm in a mixed weight relationship, but haters say I should only date fat people. Mixed weight? Is this like boxing? You can only gauge in relationships if you're a certain number of weight classes apart. Is that it? Maybe have a straw weight? Get in with a cruiserweight? I would say that sounds hot, but it sounds like somebody's going to get an injury. And yes, it will be the straw weight. Possibly the cruiserweight, since the straw weight will just be bone. So the self-proclaimed Thickney Spears is clapping back at online trolls who criticize her mixed-weight relationship with her longtime boyfriend. Leah Stanley, a proudly plus-sized lifestyle influencer from Vermont, met her partner Dan 3 years ago on the Bumble dating app. The social media manager known as Voluptuous Leah to her 240,000 followers on Instagram and her native New York fella face a barrage of haters questioning their romance. To be honest, I didn't realize this needed to be known as plus-sized lifestyle or the fact that the relationship is a mixed-weight relationship. To me, it's just a relationship. But because you've slapped a cringy title on it, well, the internet really doesn't have time for it, beyond memeing the living feck out of you. And understandably so. There are a plethora of questions many will ask when it comes to somebody who is clearly smaller than the other. The more obvious being, is he the feeder? Or do you feed him enough? Does he get enough nutrients? Or does he photosynthesize them from your aura as the sun? Being quoted as saying, people always assume that a fat person like me should be with another fat person, and that goes the other way as well. Too bad it's all based from jealousy and minds filled with judgments. Those comments hold zero value. While you are posting it online and expecting equally pleasant, positive, judgy responses. There's no way you do it online just for that. You know damn well on the internet, people are going to spot you, especially if you then talk to anyone. For example, you told Need to Know online. Did you really think it would go unnoticed? Consequences for actions are always going to be positive and or negative. You are hardly going to find one that is all positive unless you've blocked out all the negative. They're just the haters and the judgy. Okay. Undeterred by her haters, Stanley proudly shares her blissful life with the 37-year-old tree surgeon Dan on social media, and she recently got candid about their relationship. The lovebirds don't like to adhere to society's rules, and according to the self-proclaimed Stanley, the weight gap has never bothered Dan nor herself. That's because Dan has a type, and you are that type. You have a type, and he is that type. It's called a preference. He likes women thick. Nothing wrong with that. To call this a mixed-weight relationship is strange. The surprise that many people forget, unless you weigh the same as your partner, you are also in a mixed-weight relationship. Your size does not determine who you're attracted to. Your eyes and minds do. Yes, and those same eyes and minds determine whether or not someone prefers slim, average, stocky, or even thick. It all depends on the individual's mind. As far as the general statement of your size does not determine what you're attracted to goes, you're quite correct. You're quite fortunate also, though, that you found someone who can appreciate all that extra you to love. Am I right, everyone? Now, I can't fault anyone at all, for being so positive with their relationship. But I will admit, if you really think you're clapping back at the haters, you really don't understand the internet. Because they don't really care. They don't care because you keep biting back, which means they have a reason to laugh at you even more. Two of my favorite responses. Irate Alex. Really, mixed weight couples Sure, let's ignore the diminished racial implications here, reverse their genders for a moment and ask if it's empowering, healthy, and beautiful, then Lamau. And DeCarlo Watkins. Mixed-weight couples weren't even allowed to intermarry until the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Thinnerman versus Ohio in 2004. So next we go to the state of Oregon, to an article I genuinely thought was a Poe. Now eye-rolling is racist. Teachers at Oregon elementary schools say colleagues' open disdain for woke principal is example of white supremacy.
How is this shit still going on?
I'm sorry, but I can't be the only person that's malfunctioning upon reading such a title. School teachers at an Oregon elementary school claim that eye-rolling directed at the principal is a form of aggression rooted in white supremacy. BIPOC teachers at Errol Hassel Elementary School sent an email to school administrators on May the 27th after hearing that their principal, Cynthia Lamb Moffett, may be removed from her position. BIPOC, for those who don't know what that means, so Brits, we have BAME, BAME, stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. Being quoted as saying, "We believe that much of the resistance to Principal Moffett's work is a result of bias and targeted aggression. As BIPOC educators, we have observed, experienced, and witnessed similar micro and macro aggressions," the teachers said in the email. Included in the list of micro and macro aggressions provided was an example of staff members rolling their eyes during meetings while Principal Moffett was speaking. If she said anything somewhat condescending, perhaps repeated something she's already said, or perhaps said something that's stating the bleeding obvious, people will roll their eyes regardless. The staff also claimed that other staff had raised their voice and interrupted Principal Moffett during meetings and spoke in a disrespectful and aggressive manner. Aggressive emails and behaviors over the school radio directed towards BIPOC staff were also mentioned in this extensive email, and the teachers complained they were being ignored and othered. Well, that's not surprising when you've got a group of teachers banding together by race to discriminate against others or claim they themselves are the victim of discrimination, using thought-terminating cliché and buzzwords to achieve it. Separating people by race, in elementary school of all places. How gauche. The originality levels are over 9,000. Oh wow.
You're so smart.
The group of BIPOC teachers also said they knew of racial slurs being directed at Principal Moffett by a staff member, and claimed white staff at the school called a group of BIPOC staff a gang. Well, if you bandied together to do this, and there aren't many white people on your side, chances are you might be a bit of a clique. If you don't notice it, chances are it's because you're so high on your own farts, you haven't noticed it. A list of issues that the teachers felt need to be resolved was provided. It included staff opposing district policy relayed by Principal Moffett, BIPOC school staff being called divisive for bringing up these issues and asking for support, and Principal Moffett being held responsible for addressing and solving situations of racism in which she is a victim. In the email, the teachers say they have not been given any clear next steps to address all of these aggressions, and feel that the actions we have witnessed and experienced this year have greatly harmed us. Let's address each of them in turn, shall we? Staff opposing district policy, relayed by the principal. As I'm not fully familiar with how these kind of policies can be altered, I would recommend a group meeting of some kind to discuss it with a superior. BIPOC school staff being called divisive for bringing up these issues and asking for support. You need to work together. If you bring up the issue and you don't seek to resolve it together, you don't achieve anything together. Therefore, you create a greater divide. And the principal being held responsible for addressing and solving situations of racism in which she is the victim. If the principal is a victim of racism, an outsider must be the one to deal with it. Because racism is a form of crime after all, is it not? Therefore, it must be dealt with an impartial person, an individual, an independent. Somebody not connected, an adjudicator, perhaps a watchdog, a complaints committee. You guys are meant to be educating children, and what they're seeing, or what they might hear of from their parents, is that their teachers are all a bunch of racists. Such progress, right? Before we get to the final subject, I would like to present you with an honourable mention. Fashion is quite a divisive subject. If you've ever seen those runway catwalks, you'll see outfits that make literally no sense ever. They are the narcissistic outfits that you'll only ever see at rather special events with those celebrity folk. They are vastly more expensive than they should be, and the one thing that really makes them worthwhile, is the name tag. Insert this individual. This is 7-time Formula One world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton, dressed like a motherfucking tea cozy. I doubt he wore that under his helmet. Although looking like that, he looks like a big fluffy pink helmet. A ginormous pink fluffy helmet. Congratulations, Lewis. I see you've taken fashion to a, oh, for simpler times. Now for the final subject, we were going to be talking about how Resident Evil, the live-action TV adaptation for Netflix, was cancelled. Hardly a surprise, viewers and critics thought it was utter shite. And the fact they had 2 separate stories, neither of which made any sense, the fact they barely featured anything that anyone could latch onto, the unrelatable characters, and some of that work was, well, shocking, quite frankly. Instead, though, we're going to talk about another type of work entirely. Their delusions and hypocrisy are beyond parody, as Apple staff claim it's racist and sexist to force them back in the office. Ex-number 10 Supremo Steve Hilton heaps scorn on the hippy-dippy mumbo-jumbo of the pampered whingy millennials. Can you tell this was written by the Daily Mail? The article itself starts by talking about Liz Truss, who is trying to become Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party, and how Liz Truss is not a fan of only 1/3 of the bureaucrats in her own office turning up for work, which is the worst record of any government department. It continues by talking about Apple Chief Executive Tim Cook, who also shares this sentiment, who had also recently told his employees that in-person collaboration is essential to our culture, and announced a new company policy that would require them to go into the office for at least 3 days a week. This article in question then sarcastically points out that this is very inhumane, of course. Some, though, being dubbed the pampered woke millennials that seem to speak for Apple employees, circulated a petition that in turn protested against management's 3-day week edict, and insisted that they're right to work from home whenever they please, even if it means never coming into the office. As you might expect from a tech company, in an open letter, the resistance was couched in suitably hippy-dippy futuristic corporate HR babble. Quote, "Office-bound work is a technology from the last century, from the era before ubiquitous video call capable internet and everyone being on the same internal chat application. But the future is about connecting when it makes sense with people who have relevant input no matter where they are based." Sounds to me like somebody likes being in their jammies, or in the buff at home, getting caught in a Zoom call wanking. However, this was not the most disturbing message to emanate from Apple Together, as the employee protested movement is called. The truly striking aspect of their campaign, and chilling one for every employer in the UK and around the world, given the trend-setting role of California and its tech giants, was the way Apple workers framed their complaint. Not like any normal person might think, as simply a brazen attempt to maintain a lifestyle free from the humdrum requirements of commuting to work and interacting in the real world with actual people. And this is because one sentence shows in the Apple workers' open letter that is quite honestly beyond parody. The full sentence reads as follows: "Being in the office at least 3 fixed days of the week will change the makeup of our workforce. It will make Apple younger, whiter, more male-dominated, more neuronormative, more able-bodied. In short, it will lead to privileges deciding who can work for Apple, not who'd be the best fit." What a load of bollocks.